I just came back from my first trip to India, to the Christian Medical College. I did not smell anything unusual. I was told, when you step out of the airplane, you smell something. But my wife tells me my nose is terrible. It's a blessing, though. Everything smells as good as Penang. But at the same time, they told me that the food was going to be very tasty, so special. I said, oh, it tastes like Penang curry. So there's some defects in my nose. That is a blessing and sometimes not so much of a blessing. But I enjoyed my trip to India. And here you see a woodpecker on a tree that is in the compound of the Christian Medical College. Surprisingly, it's in sort of a dry area, but it has lots of birds. And there's even a doctor there who raises all types of pheasants, beautiful pheasants. At another time, I'll show you pictures of that. Well, today, we are going to talk about a particular parable that Jesus taught. And out of this parable, you will learn certain pearls of wisdom. I've listed them here. Number one, virtues, such as wisdom is not the monopoly of the righteous. Number two, principles do not always dictate good motives or actions. Number three, the end does not justify the means. Number four, description is not prescription. Number five, secure the future with the present opportunities that you have. It's like when I was learning Malay, you have to learn a whole bunch of wise sayings, learn the proverbs. I still remember hangat tai ayam, and katak di bawah tempurung, and don't spit in the sky, that your spit will come back on you. So hopefully, these things that these statements that are listed will be as good as some of those Malay sayings. They will stick in your mind. But let's see how we can derive them from this parable of Jesus that's found in Luke 16. And here's the parable. And he said also unto his disciples, there was a certain rich man which had a steward, and the same was accused unto him that he had wasted his goods. And he called him and said unto him, how is it that I hear this of thee? Give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer steward. Then the steward said within himself, what shall I do? For my Lord taketh away from me the stewardship. I cannot dig to beg. I am ashamed. I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So he called every one of his Lord's debtors unto him, and said unto the first, how much owest thou unto my Lord? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said unto him, take thy bill, and sit down quickly, and write 50. Then said he to another, and how much owest thou? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said unto him, take thy bill, and write 80. 20% discount. The first one was 50% discount. How would they feel about this steward? What a wonderful man he is. And next time, when he asks for a favor from them, what do you think they will say? Yeah, he's a good guy. So this steward was making sure that when he was kicked out of his job, he would benefit from the favors he gave. But his boss found out about it. Now, if you were the boss and you found out that your manager has been giving this huge discounts before you kicked him out of office, what would you say to him? Not what Jesus said that the master said to the steward. In the parable of this unjust steward, Jesus said, the Lord commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely. If you were the boss, you would commend this guy. You're a wise steward. For the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. And what's this? Jesus is saying, this guy is very smart. He's smarter than the people who are called the children of light. This guy is the children of darkness. And Jesus said he's very wise. Has Jesus gotten his ideas all upside down of what's good and what's bad? What is a commendation? This unjust steward got a commendation. Well, if you look at Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, it says it's the act of praising or approving someone or something. So we can be sure that Jesus was approving of this unjust steward. What did the unjust steward do that was commended, that was approved? Well, he said, I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. And then he gave them this big discount. This is what Jesus approved. That's what the boss approved. How can unjust people be wise? How would this boss say that, or even Jesus say that this man was wise? Well, here is one description or definition of wisdom. It is good judgment, good sense. It's a wise course of action. But you notice that it does not talk about motive. Motive is not included in the definition of wisdom. Wisdom, number one saying that you should remember, as much as hangat thai ayam, wisdom is not the monopoly of the righteous. Let me show you some people. Before I show you them. There are many wise crooks. That is why many people are losing their money. Here is a person that many of you remember that are older. He was the President of the United States. And there was a burglary in the Democratic Party's headquarters just before an election. And they suspected that the other party was trying to get secrets. And they investigated, and it led to President Nixon. But he stood up on TV, gave a speech. He said, I am not a crook. And that has gone down in history. Very smart man, President of the United States. He was not a crook. Later on, they found out that he was a crook. He had ordered the burglary. It all came out in the Watergate tapes. Another person that you would think is not a crook. Well, read what happened here. After nearly 14 hours of debate, the House of Representatives approves 2 articles of impeachment against President Bill Clinton, charging him with lying under oath to a federal grand jury and obstructing justice. Clinton, the second president in American history to be impeached, vowed to finish his term, and he did. So, were they wise? Yeah, I think they were wise. But wisdom is not the monopoly of righteous people. But how can God commend the unjust then? Number 2, principles do not always dictate good motives or actions. Just because you know good principles does not mean that your actions will always be principled, that you always follow the principle. A principle is a truth for all time. And that I learned from Jace Gui during our basic training. I will recommend that to you in the Fast Discipleship Program. It's a truth for all time and places, but may not speak to a person's motive. That's my part that I put in. Equally, the abuse of a principle does not invalidate the principle. We should and can admire, love, and commend a wise principle, but hate the wrong motive or action that springs from it. Jesus was commending the wisdom of the unjust steward, not his crookedness. Matthew 23:23. Here's an example of people that have a knowledge of good principles, but don't do it. Jesus says to these Pharisees and scribes, "Hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone." Jesus said, paying tithe is good. Paying tithe is good. But don't forget law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. He's not saying you cannot pay tithe. He's saying, yes, that's a good principle. But they left out mercy, judgment, and the law. So knowing good principles don't necessarily make a person do good things. Another time, Jesus said in Matthew 7:11, "But ye say, if a man shall say to his father or mother, it is korban." Now you'll find that in Islam they use this word also, korban. Things that are dedicated to the Lord, to their God. It is korban. That is to say, a gift. By whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, he shall be free. You see, when you give a gift to God, that's good. Now we give tithes, we give offerings. That's something we ought to do. It's a principle of Christianity that we give back to God for to acknowledge His blessings. But the actions of doing it can sometimes be clouded by the wrong motive. See, the Pharisees would say, this is a gift to God. Now I am freed from my responsibility to my parents. I don't have to give them this gift that I'm giving to God. While the gift is with them, they can enjoy it and not share it with their parents, and their parents are left without support just because they have announced that it is korban. Wrong motivation, but the principle of giving to God is still true. When I was growing up, I often visited my grandmother who lived in Ji Tiao Lo, 2nd Street, downtown, from Magazine Road. Famous for crooks at the end of the street, not towards the head of the street, but the tail end. But we would visit my grandma there, and my two aunties at that time were spinsters, and they would always talk about their neighbors. The one on the left play mahjong all night long. The one across the street to the right, the father made the sons eat all kinds of things, including the testicles of rats. And that's why the son got leprosy and is in Pulau Jerajak leprosarium. And then the one on the left, across the street, oh, that man, he takes care of his mother really well. And we said, how does he get his money? Well, he's a gambler. He always wins. So he takes care of his mother really well. Then we little kids would say, "Oh, is gambling good?" And my aunts would stop talking. Actually, they didn't know how to answer that question. See, the principle of supporting your mom is a very good principle. But do you go gambling to get money to do that? See, so you may know a right principle, but the means of getting that principle obeyed sometimes is questionable. So the end does not justify the means. That's something that you should learn. In Luke 16, verse 8, and the Lord commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely. Wisely. He was unjust, and that's wise. For the children of this world and their generation wiser than the children of light. Which principle was the unjust steward commended for? He made the best of the present opportunities to secure the future. That's what Jesus was saying. He's wise. He knew what was going to happen to him. So while he had the opportunity to make a big discount and gain favors, he did it. So Jesus commended him not because of his crookedness, but because of his wisdom of making use of present opportunities to secure the future. And then he said, and I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon. Mammon is money of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations. Wow. Now this is pretty clear. Jesus said, be like this unjust steward. Go make friends of unrighteous money. And when you lose that money, don't worry. You have friends who will then be able to help you. Is Jesus really telling us to be like the unjust steward? Just like we asked my aunties, so is gambling good? Is my aunties really saying you should go gamble and then go get the money and help your mother? Is Jesus really saying that go make use of this unrighteous wealth to assure your future? That seems to be what he's saying. So is Jesus telling us to love unrighteous mammon, which is money, to secure our future? Well, you must make the difference between a description and a prescription. A description tells us what is, but a prescription tells us what must. So a doctor can describe a disease. Oh, there are blisters, there's weeping, pus coming out. That's a description. But then the doctor says you must use this antibiotic, you must use this soap. That's a prescription. So when Jesus said you must use the unrighteous mammon, is that a prescription or is that a description? Well, in verse 10, further down, Jesus explains what looked like a prescription. Verse 10, he that is faithful in that which is least, which is the money and secular things, is faithful also in much, spiritual riches. How do I know? Because the next verse explains it. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. And verse 11, if therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, the money, who will commit to your trust the true riches? So actually, this is what Jesus is trying to say. If you are unfaithful in handling unrighteous, dirty money, secular things, how can you be trusted with true riches? Now, Jesus wants us to secure the future with the present opportunities. That's what he's trying to teach. You must be faithful with the opportunities you're given to secure your future. Many of us have money. We don't use it properly. And if you cannot use the secular things properly, how can you use the spiritual blessings that God gives you? We must secure the future with the present opportunities. Verse 8, let's look at it again. And the Lord commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely. How was he wise? He secured his future by using the opportunities he had. So in that sense, he was wiser than some of the children of light. Are we wiser than secular people today? Are we using present opportunities to secure our eternal future? Or are we wasting opportunities that contribute to ours and others' eternal future? So, what are the present opportunities that we have? Worshipping as Christians freely in a Muslim country. That's a real opportunity for us today. We don't know when we will lose this opportunity. Number 2, we have the opportunity of developing a strong relationship with God through the discipleship program of the church. The FAST program, the faithful, available, spiritual, and teachable program. And we are going to expand that to many people. Hopefully, everyone in this church will take this opportunity to be discipled. One of the ways to understand the Bible is to use the skills that you learn from this discipleship program. I learned a lot. It's called OPA. You observe, you draw principles, and you apply. So when you look at this parable, I'm observing what's happening there. I drew principles, then I'm applying. Right now I'm applying it. Number 3, an opportunity is advancing Christian influence through community outreach. We have the food bank. So far, that's our only community outreach by the church, by this church. Definitely, we have the Penang Adventist Hospital also, which is a community outreach. But are we availing ourselves of the opportunities through these organizations? Number 4, taking part in building a strong support group. Care group is a church project. We would like to see everyone here be part of a care group. Are you going to avail yourself of this opportunity? Number 5, there are opportunities in achieving many goals in life. Academics, jobs, music, relationship with spouse, children, etc. Are we going to use those opportunities? Some of us are too old, you think, to learn music. But I know of people who are at 60 years old or more, finally retire and they take their first piano lesson. Yeah, I might be doing that. I don't know when I'll retire, but I love to play the violin. And there's so many things to do in life. I'm not trying to boast, but I took the opportunities in college to learn some things like singing. I found out that if you take a full load at Walla Walla College in 1968, you didn't have to pay for extra lessons that you do not get credited for. You just go to the teacher and say, can you give me a lesson? I don't want any credit. I just want to learn. And if the teacher has time on the schedule, they say, okay. And that's how I learned singing. 3 years of it, free. I took the opportunity. And then there's gymnastics. It's free. You can join. There is school band. There is school choir. I joined all those things. No credit. Free. But it was such an opportunity that I enjoyed tremendously and added to my growth as an individual. So, many of the things in life are free if you would put in the opportunity. How about talking to your wife? Is that free? Talking to your husband? Yeah. Do you take the opportunity? How about talking to your children? Going for a walk, botanical gardens, the beach, going up Penang Hill. It's free. Don't have to pay for it. But how many of us make use of those opportunities that will develop a better relationship for the future? So, there are many opportunities that we must take, and that's what this parable is actually teaching. Not to be crooked, but to use opportunities that you have to secure your future. So let's summarize again the wisdom pearls that we can find from this parable. Number one, virtues such as wisdom is not the monopoly of the righteous. Number two, principles do not always dictate good motives or actions. Number three, the end does not justify the means. Number four, description is not prescription. The true prescription is secure the future with the present opportunities. And next time when you read this parable, keep this in mind. And there are many other parables of Jesus. As you read, as you come across difficulties, apply your thinking cap, ask for the Holy Spirit to guide you, and you can learn lessons that you have not seen before, like I have, as I researched and thought about this parable. Thank you for your attention.